we have a big election coming up. I know a lot of people like to downplay what we call midterm elections, but locally, it's really important. And not only locally, like Oakland local, but Alameda County and statewide. This is when we vote for our mayor, when we vote for a board of supervisor that represents Oakland, that we vote for our governor. So those are some pretty big things that we need to be considering. And there is a seat open right now for the board of supervisors in District 3 that covers most of Oakland, not all of Oakland. So like there's a little cutout of central part of Oakland that is not included there. But there are two candidates who are running, Lena Tan and Tam and Rebecca Kaplan. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why the board of supervisors is so important. What do you think, Jose? What do you think what if someone came up to you and was like, yo, Jose, I don't really care about the board of supervisors. Why is this important for me to even vote for this? I don't know who to vote for. I'm sure you get I get a lot of that. Hey, Liz, who do I vote for? And it's like, well, let me tell you about the candidates. Let me tell you about this seat first. And I think a lot of people are just like, just tell me what to do. But I think we want to inform people about why this is so important, right? Because this seat, the Board of Supervisors, District 3, which covers part of Oakland, or majority of Oakland, was held by Wilma Chan, who was oftentimes the lone dissenting voice on the Board of Supervisors for many things, right? Mm-hmm. And so, this, she passed away, rest in peace to her, earlier this year. Was it earlier this year or? Yeah, it was earlier this year, right? And so, yeah. So what would you tell folks, Jose, if someone was like, why is this important for me to know about?
Yeah. I mean, I think just in general, it's important for folks to vote, period. You know what I mean? Folks have fought long and hard, have died, to give us the right to vote. And it's not a perfect system at all. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it is one of the few tools that we still have, and it's not in our favor, you know what I mean? But we do have that tool, we do have that tactic, and it's important who's in those seats. And an office like the Board of Supervisors, just in general, why it's important. I think it's important to know what that role is, right? And so, by design, folks don't know, who the Board of Supervisors are, what they do, what it is. Some folks I talk to, they say, "What's a board of supervisor? What's county government?" I don't get the difference between Oakland and county. What's the difference? And it's by design that way, And just to break it down just a little bit, there are 58 counties in California, and each county has a government, has a body, supervisors, right? They have a district attorney, they have a sheriff, and county government is responsible for a lot of critical, essential, crucial things that we need. They're in charge of funding them, administering them, oversight over them. And so some of those things, for example, is our public health, right? So during the pandemic, we had lockdowns, we had orders being issued. That all came down from the county, the public health officer from the county. We had, resources going into places and not going into places. We had all kinds of things happen, and that's an example of the power of the county. So for us at the Ella Baker Center, something that's key and central to us is shifting resources away from punitive systems, harmful systems, in Alameda County, specifically Santa Rita Jail, the probation department, the DA's office. We want to shift those resources into community resources, into supporting, jobs for folks, supporting clinics, supporting, affordable housing, all those things that we need. And the Board of Supervisors, there's only 5 of them. That's it, 5. And they represent a broad, diverse geographical area, right? And so each vote is really important. And Alameda County has a annual budget. They just voted one. It was $3.8 billion, right? Do the math, $3.8 billion. And so that's a lot of money. So where is that money going? Well, historically in Alameda County, a lot of that money has been going to the jail, Santa Rita jail. A lot of that money has been going into the sheriff's office. Overwhelming, no other department even comes close to how much money the sheriff's office gets. And so we need to really look at that board of supervisor seats, who's in it, what are their priorities, what are they doing, and it's critical. It's critical. That seat is one of the main key things that the board of supervisors is charged with doing, is voting on the budget. Like, and those are our dollars. Those are the money that the folks, tax dollars, right? And so, that is, I think, the most important thing for a supervisor, is voting on the budget and allocating under where money's going to go, where things are going to get invested in, and where things are not going to get invested in. And there's also other key things that a board supervisor does, like setting ordinances, in terms of, for example, like, should the county cooperate with ICE, right? Like that's an example. I'm not, like a ordinance that the county could do. And oversight, holding other elected county officials accountable.
So that's a few things. That's a lot. So when we talk about $3.8 billion, it's a lot of money, right? Like billions, which is very different, I think, than, what we think about in terms of like the millions of dollars that maybe, our city budget looks like, right? So a lot of the funds that come down from the state don't come directly to cities. They have to go through county, and there's like a disbursement of that money in very particular ways. So some of that budget, I wonder if you could share a little bit about what are some of the things that Alameda County actually provides as services. So one, you said, is not a service, but a big part of our budget goes to the Sheriff's Department. It goes to our DA, to our district attorney's office, right? Some of it also within the realm of the criminal justice system is also is the public defender's office, which is much smaller than the DA's office. Significantly smaller. Yeah. It's like a quarter of what the DA gets. And then there's also like the probation department. And then there's a whole list of other things that the city that the county provides, that I think a lot of people get mixed up in, right? So tell me if I'm missing any of these, right? They do family and child services. So much of our welfare system goes through the county. Behavioral health. Huge. And health, public health goes through there. So on the children and family services, that includes child protective services and elder services as well, like protective services. So these are things that I think all of us are more largely impacted by than even some of the more local things at the city level.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's like no way that if you live in the county, wherever you live, whether it's Oakland, or you live, in Cherryland, or, somewhere, anywhere in the county, you're impacted by the county, and I will say some are more impacted than others. And I'll only say that in the sense that Oakland has its own city government, right? But they still, to your point, have this funding stream that has to go through the county, and there are things that are the responsibility of the county, right? And so, they have their own budget that the city council votes and does, and revenue that the city's able to generate on their own through their own taxes. But there are other like parts of the county that are unincorporated, meaning that they don't have a city government, and so they rely on the county. And some of these, areas are very affluent. They're just fine. You know what I mean? They're happy not to pay property tax. But there are other areas that are really in need of a lot of services. I just named one of them, Cherryland. Folks up there are really struggling. Folks really need the county government to step up and support folks. And, they don't have a mayor, they don't have a city council person. They rely everything on the county. The county has to provide everything. And so these seats are critical. And it's not as simple as saying, there's 5 elected supervisors and District 3 is only going to represent Oakland, and so that's it. That's the only people they're going to look out for. No, there's like 5 folks that sit on that, and whatever decision any of them makes, you know, because you need 3 votes to pass anything, is going to impact the whole county. You know what I mean? And so anyone sitting in those seats, it's really important, and it's really unfortunate and really not a very good practice in a democracy when the majority of the board of supervisors have been there for years. I'm talking like, you know, one of them is going to hit almost 30 years, I think, and
32.
they rarely 32 years, right? And they rarely go unchallenged. You know, there's rarely open seats. It's really a travesty to our democracy, you know, that we have that kind of system in place. And so right now we have an opportunity. Right now there's an open seat. You know what I mean? I'm not here to support any of the candidates, either for or against. You know what I mean? I just want to get the word out to y'all today that this is happening, and it's important for us to do our homework and to see who's most aligned, you know, with what you believe, what you think is true. You know what I mean? And you know, get out the vote, get out there, you know, and tell your folks to vote too. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like folks, you know, it's like, oh yeah, Alameda County, but I don't know if folks, even folks who live here, really understand how large Alameda County is. So we're talking about going from Albany, right, through Berkeley, Emeryville, Oakland, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Cherryland, Ashland, Hayward, Fremont, Union City. That's just that side alone, right, on the most western side, which is closer to the bay. That is about 40 miles. And then if we go east, then it goes into Dublin all the way out to Livermore, which, if y'all don't know, touches the Highway 5. So we're going from like these super, super dense urban areas of like Berkeley, Emeryville, Oakland, and going all the way to this rural parts of Livermore that go all the way out there. And so 5 people essentially are making decisions on $3.8 billion of a budget that impact all of these people. And so much so that like doesn't the county have a surplus at the moment because they have not really put into play all of the funding that they should be?
Yeah, that's Alameda County is known for this. They have one of the largest reserves in the entire state of California, and you can look at it 2 ways. You could if you ask them right now, they'll brag about it. They get something called the AAA credit rating. You know what I mean? That look at you're so you know, financially astute, and you're, you know, saving all this money for a rainy day, quote unquote rainy day, right? And they have a lot of money just sitting there, man. Just like, we're talking like massive amounts of money just sitting there. And so on one end, you know, that's great that they're getting these acolytes and they're getting this AAA credit rating. On the other end, wait a minute, like, have you been outside? Have you seen the food lines? Have you seen how many folks are sleeping under a bridge, are sleeping on the concrete? Have you seen what's out there? Have you not like experienced the pandemic with us? Why aren't you spending that money? And so the county is actually very fiscally conservative in comparison to other counties. So it's not a good thing because they're not spending money where it needs to be spent. And we've had rainy days, many rainy days,
Including this pandemic.
Right. You know, and, you know, a lot of folks lost their jobs. A lot of folks are struggling. Rent is going higher. Inflation is off the hook, yo. Like, I try to not to drive whenever I can. Everything is high. Like, it's uncertainty in the job market. All kinds of things are happening right now. And, you know, that money needs to get spent. So yeah, Alameda County is notoriously known for being fiscally conservative in comparison to other counties.
Yeah, like, you know, I just looked it up really quick. It looks like just in, there is about, in the contingency and reserves, there's about $60 million. I'm sorry.
I think there's more than that.
60. Yeah, I feel like it's more than that. I feel like I think it's, I'll keep looking. But I feel like that's not right. I feel like it's in the 100 million. It's not 200 million, but it's like between like 150 million and 200 million. I don't know the exact number. But that's a lot of money. Like there's so much you can actually do. And it was interesting to actually see when the county issued, stay at home orders during the pandemic or for the pandemic. Apparently we're out of the pandemic. But the county did not move any funds. It actually took some of our city council members to really move quickly to push on the county to open a testing site at the Coliseum. And it became one of the only public testing sites in all of Alameda County. So everybody was coming to the Oakland Coliseum to get tested at the time in the beginning. No, it feels like hella long ago, you all, about 3 years ago. But the county just moved super slow and didn't get any funds out to anybody in terms of like really additionally assisting people through this moment. And so those are really important for us to really think about, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think it's the county, like again, it goes back to the point that is often overlooked or often not part of the conversation or the equation. And for critical pieces of infrastructure, of resources, of essential city and government functions, like the county is in the equation, absolutely. And so it is really important to like just keep heat on them too. It's one thing, you get out there and vote, and again, we have an opportunity this year to have open race, which we haven't in years. But it's also once they're in office, holding them accountable and putting heat on them, because yeah, I don't think enough people pay attention to the county government, and I think it's by design. So that's the
Could you say a little bit more what you mean by design?
Yeah, I mean, by design, I mean that it's most of these elections for county supervisors um, are done during off years, meaning not the years that like the president is, when a lot of people turn out when the president is on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
In, for example, Alameda County, um, they have this thing where the election somewhat happens in the primary. Usually. It's a candidate that is an incumbent or who is an insider, who has all of the establishment connections and all of the funding resources. And you basically just have one choice, on the ballot. And if you have other choices, it's candidates that are severely underfunded, severely, lack the ability to get the message out there for such a broad, geographical area that they're going to represent. And so by design, a lot of these county supervisors stay in power for a long time because they're rarely ever challenged, and if they are, again, the odds are completely in their favor from beginning to end. And so by design, people like me and people like you, Liz, and people in Flatlands and people in the Fruitvale and in Cherryland are not supposed to be as involved in the county. We were never intended to be part of that, by design. That's what I mean by that. And so, this is why it's critical and it's important that we have these discussions, that we have these get out the votes, that we let folks know what the county's about, because again, we were never intended to be part of that. So.
That's right. That's right. And I think that, one of the things that I want folks to know about, just in terms of before we start talking about like ways that you could find out about some of the candidates, because I know that there's some forums coming up that Ella Baker Center has been involved with, and we are supporting to get the word out about, but is that, oh crap, I totally forgot what I was about to say. Oh, it's about just like what they need to know about elections, right? So in Oakland, we have ranked choice voting. So we don't have to worry about the primary at all. And, I think that it has been really beneficial to us, because not only does it prevent us from having to worry about the primaries, where oftentimes it's like the most resourced candidates are able to run, right? Because if you have more resources, if you run in the primary, you're more likely to be able to run in the general election. And the primaries, like the idea around it is that the primary is like, there's more candidates, and then we get it down to like 2, and then you vote for somebody, right? But like you're saying, though, Jose, in the Board of Supervisor races and much of the county seats, like particularly like the sheriff and the DA as well, those go usually kind of because they're sort of sleeper. No one knows about them. They don't advertise it widely. They don't really get out and tell the community that these seats are up. You sort of have to already be keyed in to like know about these seats, right? That then you have folks who really have the resources, like the sheriff. For the first time in 50 years, we had an incumbent be challenged this year, and in the primary, and now we have a new sheriff that will start in January, which we'll probably have another IG Live about, another Monday Meals about. But in terms of like the Board of Supervisors, like, you know, Wilma Chan had gone unopposed for about 19 years in this seat. But there are other folks who have been on the Board of Supervisors who just kind of continue to go. So Nate Miley and Keith Carson, Richard Valle have all been on the Board of Supervisors for 25 plus years. And nobody really thinks about it because the primary is generally where less people come out to vote. It's usually, again, people who know that it's happening, who have resources and access to the information. And so that's why it's really critical that, you know, organizations like Open Rising is out there really telling people of color, you know, flatland folks, poor people who don't have access to get out the vote. So in Oakland, we have ranked choice voting, but in Alameda County, like you said, it was fought in the primary. So there were actually a few people who ran for the Board of Supervisors seat in District 3, and now there's only 2 who made it, the top 2 made it into the general election, which you all should be getting you should have gotten already a voter information pamphlet that tells you all the information you should know about voting and who's running, but you will get your ballot in the next week or so. And then you'll have from October 10th till November 8th to get your mail-in ballot in or to go into a polling center. So right now we have, like I mentioned at the beginning, we have 2 candidates. We have Lena Tam and Rebecca Kaplan. And there is a forum that's happening this next week, right? That Ella Baker Center is a part of, and I believe is being led by Faith in Action, East Bay. And could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that like you said, it's being main sponsor led by Faith in Action East Bay, and we're gonna support you know, and helping them with some of the questions and some of the outreach for it. And so you know, I think it's a great opportunity, you know, for folks to learn more, you know, about these 2 candidates. It's a nonpartisan, you know, forum. It's open to all community members. All are welcome. It'll be on Wednesday, the 12th. So that's that's next week, yo. So but also like the election is right around the corner, and so invite folks. It should be on the Faith in Action East Bay social media. We'll also start putting things out, promoting it. It'll be in the evening, Wednesday, October 12th.
And it's online, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be on Zoom.
Yeah, and so just so that folks know what nonpartisan looks like is that the invitation goes out to both the candidates, right? And the questions are all the same. The time that they're given to respond to those questions are the same. And so they are given equal opportunity in the format to represent themselves and to inform voters about their platform. This is not a debate where they're not supposed to go at each other, but they're just simply there to share with equal time, equal questions on all the issues. So, key in, like, get tapped in, y'all. Like, we'll be posting it soon. Oakland Rising will be posting it, and L. Baker Center will be posting it, but you can also go to Faith in Action East Bay, and they'll be posting it there too, so that you can learn more about Board of Supervisors District 3 election that's coming up.
Yeah, and I should also just add that, like, you know, these folks are running, right? They're running for a very important, you know, critical seat. And you, as an Alameda County resident, you know, may or may not live in their district. You know, I think you have a right to ask questions. And so, like, most of these candidates will oftentimes have a website, and on the website it says, reach out to me, you know, like, email me, contact me, how to get a hold of them. And so, you know, if you have questions, it's your right to ask them. And, you know, any candidate running, I would hope, is responsive, you know, to community questions, concerns. So you have that right, you know, go to the website, look them up, you know, and I'm speaking in general terms, not just the county supervisors. Any candidate running for office, really, they should be accountable to you, the people, the voters. And, you know, it's your right to ask. And, you know, so I would encourage that. Reach out to them directly. You don't have to wait for a forum. You can ask them yourself. So
that's right. That's right. And I think that a lot of people have been pretty jaded by the way that the government and our elected officials have really responded to us, particularly in the last couple years, right? I think folks were a little jaded prior to that, but, like, collectively, how much we think that our government is really looking out for us and taking care of everybody in our communities, and not just prioritizing, you know, developers and the police and corporations. But we need to be able to respond to that by going out to vote. But I want to also say that in addition to that, it's not just about the vote. Like, you can't make this just like, I voted and that's enough. Like, you really gotta stay connected and stay abreast to the issues. You know, obviously you're here, so following Oakland Rising and following Ella Baker Center and the work that Ella Baker Center is doing, particularly around the county stuff, and tap in, because we have volunteer programs that contact voters, but Ella Baker Center has volunteers to help with all kinds of stuff. Y'all, almost every single month throughout the pandemic, Ella Baker Center has been doing mutual aid events, has put on the night for safety and liberation in response to the night out for safety that is put on by the cops. So these are the kinds of opportunities that you can stay tapped into. This is oftentimes where you can find the grace and the hope that you need to kind of get through much of the difficult times that we're faced with. And so tap in, y'all, because these are the organizations that are really doing the work. So thank you, Jose, for being here. You know, my comrade in arms. I always appreciate spending time with you, talking with you, because you're amazing. You're an amazing organizer. You're an amazing person. And I appreciate you so much for joining today to talk about the Board of Supervisors.
feeling is mutual, Liz. Thank you so much for having me here. And I hope folks get out the vote. So.
Yes, get out the vote, y'all. Get out the vote.
Okay.
Make sure you can follow Oakland Rising, because we have some volunteer opportunities. We're going to be phone banking and door knocking in the next couple weeks through November to talk to voters about some measures that we're supporting here in Oakland. That's through our C4, our Oakland Rising Action. So tap in and really help out, because we need to talk to people. So thank you. Have a great day.